ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Unfortunately, 6 years ago, on Thursday, the 14th of April, one of my classmates in my elementary school pulled the fire alarm in the gymnasium in that building, and he got into big trouble for doing that. I am lucky that he is not in jail. After he did that, because obviously he was just a kid, but if he were older, he would be locked up in jail. Because pulling a fire alarm in any public building without a fire or without authorization is a very serious felony and can get you arrested. Thankfully, he learned his lesson and never did it again. If he didn't learn his lesson, then he would be arrested right now. Because he is old enough to know that he is not supposed to be doing that. If you don't want to end up like this kid, please don't pull fire alarms unless there is a real fire, or if you have permission to, or it's your own fire alarm system at home that doesn't contact the fire department. But other than that, never ever pull fire alarms. And there were other kids in my elementary school that pulled the fire alarm. I remember when I was in second grade, a kindergartner pulled the alarm in that school and he got into big trouble for that. There were a lot of troublemakers in my elementary school that did this. I remember in fourth grade, when I was in fourth grade, there was a kid in first grade that was in special education. Next door to me. He pulled the fire alarm when he was walking in the hallway, and got into trouble for that. This was back in October of 2013. And the time when that kindergartner pulled the alarm was back in May of 2012. And in April of 2016, a third grader pulled the alarm when I was in sixth grade. And in April of 2010, when I was in kindergarten, this was a Tuesday, April 13th, 2010. I was 6 years old at the time. It was a couple of weeks after I turned 6 years old. It was the very end of the school day, and then the fire alarm went off because one of the students in that school pulled it on their way out of the building. Clearly, there were a lot of troublemakers in that school that caused the fire alarm to go off without a drill. There's no fire, and no one was coming to test the alarm system. I was very mad at those kids that did it. I never pulled a fire alarm for fun in my life before, because I am smart. I am not stupid. And the good news about my elementary school's fire alarm system is that none of the fire alarms were tampered with, as far as taking them off the wall or the ceiling, or unscrewing them, turning off the sound and the strobe. That was a plus. But ever since 6 years ago, nobody pulled the fire alarm in my school for fun. This hasn't happened in a long time. This didn't happen in my middle school, and so far this didn't happen in my high school, and I hope it never happens in my high school. To all of those kids that like to pull fire alarms for fun, you better grow up. The reason why the kids in my elementary school pulled the alarm is because they wanted to get out of class, and they wanted to get out of a test, and they thought it was funny. They wanted to do it as a prank, and they wanted to scare people. That's why they did it. But let me tell you, that was the wrong thing they did. And they were endangering people's lives by doing this. So don't pull fire alarms for fun, and don't tamper with fire alarm equipment in public buildings.